Welcome back, everybody, to the Advanced Selling Podcast, the longest running sales training podcast history. We are live today on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook. Bryan Neal.
Bryan Neal here.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you. I love when Bill welcomes me on my own show. We're live on all those things?
We're live on all those platforms.
I didn't know that. Yeah. I thought we were just live on LinkedIn. I'm kind of new to the live thing.
Yeah, well, we talked about this a couple of weeks ago about going live, and I think if it works and people like it, we'll do it again. Maybe not every time, but once every couple of months. Because
live to me is, I don't see any reason not to. I mean, other than if it's a technical pain in the butt to do it, but it's even if no one shows up, it's recorded and it's live, and people can watch it again. But it's kind of fun, I think, for people to kind of see. There are people that want to start their own podcast. Like, how do I do that? Or they think that because we've been doing it for 19 years that we'd have our stuff figured out by now. Clearly we don't, because the equipment didn't work this morning.
Terry says, good morning from Maryland. I go back away with you two on the Advanced Selling Podcast. Whatever happened to the guy that used Top Voice, You're Open? Used to Top Voice, You're Open.
Dave Dugan.
Dave Dugan.
Yeah. Dave, I haven't seen Dave Dugan in a while.
He's no longer with us.
He died?
No, he's just not with us.
Oh, jeez. Thanks, Bill.
No, Dave is fine. He's a good. Yeah, we should get Dave back for a interview now that he's back
no longer with
live.
Us. Well, we were in two different places there because I didn't know if he was alive or not. And when you said that, I'm like, oh my God. And I would have read that. He's kind of a little celebrity here in where we live in Indianapolis, I would say.
Hey, do you remember a guy named Buster Bodine?
I do. Why do I know Buster Bodine? Keep going. I don't know.
WNAP. Did you ever grow up with WNAP?
Yeah, the Buzzard. Of course.
Yeah, the Buzzard, the Wrath of the Buzzard. Buster Bodine was the jock on from 3 to 6. And
you got it.
God, a lot. And he just passed. He is literally no longer with us. And coincidentally, he and Dave Dugan were friends because they both did radio.
And welcome to our brains, everybody.
That's right. Use Voice You're Open. Yeah. I used to Voice You're Open. That was Dave Dugan. Okay.
Dave Dugan. So glad we're here live, people. Glad you're here. Comment if you need to.
Yeah, we love
I can. Let's see. Just a quick little where I'm coming off of spring break. Remember your days of spring break, Bill? Back in the 70s, 80s? Man. But I went on my son. So I've got 5 kids. We're a blended family. So 4 of mine, 1's hers. But my youngest of my 4 was his senior year spring break. So it's kind of nostalgic. It's like the last spring break. And I was just kind of thinking that we went to Mexico, this all-inclusive, which was actually really, we went to a Cancun all-inclusive. If I say that to anybody, you're kind of like, ugh, kind of have a thing.
They've changed. They're
nice. So nice. Oh
yeah.
My God, they're nice. But I was just thinking, comparing that to our spring breaks that we went on. So here, like all the parents went, we all flew down, we helped our kids with everything, and everyone was there, contained
playing pickleball
all the time. Exactly. When we went, I remember I didn't go, but 2 of my friends, remember what an MR2 was? An MR2 was like a little car. It's like a little
car. Yeah.
MR2, little car. 3 of my friends drove overnight to Daytona, our senior year spring break. No parents, 3 people in a 2-person car flying overnight all the way down to Daytona and back.
Yeah.
No parents, no way to track anybody, nothing. And we survived. I just thought I was marking how different spring break is relative to what it used to be.
Though, I will say this, that I had a few spring breaks where I shouldn't have remembered them from college, but in a way, those are the most impactful and the ones I remember more than the family one at 32, or Jane and I went to Siesta Key, and then the next year, and then the next year, and then the next year, and the next year, and they all blend together. But when you are driving through Daytona Beach at 8 a.m. because you've driven all night and you all fall asleep at a stoplight,
that's memorable.
I remember that.
Yes, or we had I think 14 guys in one hotel room at the Lanny Kai in Fort Myers, Florida. 14 human men, like grown, like 20, 21-year-old men.
Grown men, but
not grown men, but we thought we were physically, all 6 foot and above ish. It's just different. You know what I mean? And you're right. Those memories are forever. Where my kids are, remembering like, oh yeah, remember when, remember when my wristband got cut off and I had to get a new one?
Exactly.
And I can
or that dolphin tried to jump in the boat. Yeah.
Right.
Remember that time we all got stoned on the beach? Oh, yeah. Never forget that.
Okay. Let's do a topic. Yeah. Spring break's over.
So I picked a topic for the first episode. And the way we usually do it is each of us picks a topic. And my topic was going to be the idea of skills. What skills do we need to have and possess and work on and get better at? As of last week, a lot seems to have changed in the market. Stock market's in kind of a free fall, and there's a lot of anxiety about what's going to happen, a recession, no recession, reset. I hear that term. But whatever it is, it doesn't matter what it is. The question is, what can we do about the world? And it's not what impact is the world going to have on us, but what impact can we have on our world? And taking that agency, taking this notion of personal responsibility and ownership, as Jocko Willink says, or George Mack talks about high agency. What can we do? And I thought that might be a good jumping off point, since everybody's kind of got one eye on what's going to happen over the next week or two, but you should have both eyes on what you can do regardless of what happens.
Yes.
That was my thought.
I love it. Yeah. So we'll roll skills into that. And you sort of said it with your very last sentence there. From my standpoint, first is, I think sometimes people, I've heard this when I coach kids, like kids coming out of college, and like, what, I'm trying to figure out what I want to do. Or I just heard a dating app commercial this morning, and this guy said the same thing. Before you figure out your type of person and your ideal, partner, you need to define what's your not ideal partner, or to figure out what you want to do. It's easier to decide what you don't want to do. And so in this case, the question is, what can we do? I say, let's really focus and get clarity on what we cannot do. Because there are a lot of things we can't do. We can't change the fact that there are tariffs. We can't negotiate between the United States or your home country, wherever you are, and other countries. We can't do that. We can't control the stock market. We can't control consumer pricing directly where we're doing. And so as you start to filter out all what I first kind of lesson here for me is 98% of this stuff is out of your control. Very cliche, but very true.
That's right.
And as soon as you notice yourself concerning yourself with something out of your control, it's got to be a reset point. Was it Charles Barkley, who snapped his rubber band when he missed a free throw or something like that as a negative? I thought there was an NBA basketball player who, when he'd miss a free throw, he'd snap a rubber band on his wrist so it hurts, so it's bad. That you need to have some mechanism to snap yourself out of that thinking.
Because you can go down that path pretty easily, and you can get pretty far down there, almost to the part of depression or despondency or surrender.
Panic. Yeah. No. Yes, completely.
I think surrender, we talk about surrender in our programs a lot. The idea that sometimes surrender is a good thing. If I'm surrendering to an outcome, like if I'm getting ready to do a podcast with you, I'm trying to be as present as I can. I have no idea of what this is going to mean. If I surrender to the outcomes or detach from the outcomes, that's a good form of surrender. A bad form of surrender is when you say, I give up. I can't do it. The market's not being kind to me, and I don't know what to do, so screw it. Yes. I'm not gonna figure it out.
Yes. That's my first one.
Okay. So you're saying to
ID what you cannot control. And if what you're worrying about or concerned about is in that bucket, stop. That's what I'm saying with extreme clarity. Stop. Don't do that.
So do you want to talk about a couple of those things first, or do you want to that was kind of a salvo?
Yeah, that was a kind of like your opening song guy, where maybe it didn't fit right, or the mic was too hot, but yeah.
Okay.
No, I think I want to start there, and then I'll give maybe some more tactical things after that. So
okay. Well, my first one actually is a good pivot from that. Can I share that one
please.
As we start? So what Bryan said there is figure out where you have gone down the no ownership rabbit hole, where you feel like, I don't know if I can do this, or it's beyond my control, and start to identify all the things that you do have control over. Like, you don't have control over whether a customer makes a decision to buy from you. You might have some influence in that. You do have some influence. How you show up, how you ask questions, how you portray your value, how you lead them through the process, how you even make the first meeting happen. So I think a lot of times we advocate control and we say, well, I can't get people to call me back, or I don't have enough in my pipeline. Okay. I think that's going to be an issue coming over the next few months. Is I think our pipelines are going to start to reduce, just because there's going to be a tepidness about committing and buying and stuff like that. And so what you've got to do is say, well, where do I have agency? Where do I have input and influence in my pipeline? Forget about the customer. Just where do I have influence? Am I sending out enough emails? Am I doing enough webinars? Am I doing any webinars? Am I reaching out to enough people, cold, warm, otherwise? Am I connecting with people in any way on LinkedIn or any of the platforms? So I think sometimes when stuff like this happens, we have to really look at where do we have some control, because that's going to give you some inspiration, because you're not going to be a hostage to tariff percentages and reciprocation and all that garbage that's thrown around out there.
That's great. Yeah. So you make the first list of things that are not in my control. I see that. Then I make a list of what's in my control, and then saying, am I doing those sorts of things and with what level of discipline? So that would be the next one for me. And I'm going to start with the mindset, because we talk about it a lot. You all listeners talk about, Bill and I talk about the abundance of a marketplace. And I like here to take the concept or the theory of abundance and put it into a number. So here's what I mean by that. Most people I work with, Bill, say you agree, disagree. Most people I work with will run a territory or a bank of clients that provide them a certain number of annual revenue. So a salesperson, and typically the number or the N of number of clients, the N is not very big globally. It's like 100. So to have a really good sales territory, to make, to post, $4 million in my territory, I might get that $4 million from 38 clients, let's just say, or something like that. Like, we're in the hundreds of clients. We're not in the tens of thousands of clients. If you're a B2B salesperson, right. I get consumers different, that sort of thing. And so then you got to say how many clients. So if I sell to dentists, and I've got a group of dentists, and I'm going to make my number on 28 to 40 of them, I've got to look at that and say, okay, that's not a very big number, actually. And I think too often people get all wrapped up in the scarcity side of that. They see the abundance around them, but they don't put it into a number. Like, you don't need that many to make a really good year. You just don't need that many, and it becomes very achievable. So if I told you you're going to run a marathon, like, there's no way. But if I'm like, well, the first thing you're going to do is, take a walk around the block. You're like, well, I can do that. I can walk around the block. We're just going to keep going. And then a year later, you run a marathon. It's like that. So just try to take an abundant theory and put it into math for yourself, and to say, what do I really need?
What's the resistance there? Because I totally agree with you. And yet I see some resistance or reluctance to do that. Is it because we're ashamed of the fact that it's a numbers game at some point? And
I don't know.
What's the...
I wonder if it's maybe, I don't know if it's resistance as much as it is just naivete. Is that a right word? Did I say that right? Naivete. Is that how you say that?
French.
Coming right off of spring break.
Yeah.
Por favor. Buenos dias. Okay. I was dropping Spanish bombs like it was my job, even though I studied Latin in high school. I think maybe people, they just freeze. They panic when they're like, oh my God, they start, what do I do? I just, just break it down, man. Just slow down. Just break it down little chunks in math, and you say, okay, I've got to get that. Because even when we go, it's so funny too. Have you seen the stock market chart, the 5-year stock market chart? Go to the 10-year stock market chart. And it's gorgeous. It's gorgeous, man. It goes zoop, and it has to correct. Peter, who's the guy from the 80s? Peter, the guy who owned Fidelity.
Yeah.
What's his name?
White-haired guy.
Yes. He was talking. I just saw a clip from like 98 or something. He's like, this is what the stock market does. Yeah. It goes up and it goes down. It goes up. It has to go down to go back up.
That's right.
It always goes up. So chill. Everybody needs to chill.
I was thinking the other day that, I don't want to get off on the stock market. We can do that maybe next episode.
Peter Lynch, is that his name?
Peter Lynch. Yeah. That's right. But when you were talking about when you threw a little French in there, I'm always amused by the people who are Southern Indiana people. No offense.
I'll take it. A1,
people, and then they throw out a French term like raison d'être.
Exactly.
Je sais quoi. And it's like, oh no, you got to come up with another word for that.
Yes. I love that. I love when I watch newscasters who Spanish might be their original language, and they're talking totally perfect English, no accent at all. And then they say a Spanish word, and I'm like, okay, take a log off the fire, man. You know what I mean? Worse
when a white American who's never learned Spanish tries to imitate the rolling of the L's. Okay. So what is so we talked about that. What's your first one?
Yeah. So after that, I would say skill wise, in an economy that's going down or soft, is the I'm going to say productivity skill, the skill of productivity.
Yeah.
And taking a good hard look at how you manage your days and your hours and your weeks and your months. The recent, and I'll say recent meaning last, I'm going to go even last 10 years, has trained and coached a lot of salespeople, not trained like you and I do it, but the market has trained them that their market runs them. They don't run their market because they haven't had to, because there's been enough business rolling in and they've been so busy. They couldn't keep up. And so they haven't had to be disciplined with their calendars.
Yeah.
And so the skill of being disciplined in all your behaviors, and what I'm talking about there, and I've talked about it on the show before, my guy I worked with for a couple of years, David Meltzer, taught me this, to be a student of your calendar. And by student, that means study. And you're literally looking at the hours and you're looking and saying, okay, is this calendar going to deliver what I need it to deliver the way it's written right here?
Yeah.
That's what skill.
That's awesome. That's good. Welcome to some new people who have joined us. Terry, Greg, Mike, I say that. James, let's see, is it James? Yeah, James Austin. Good job. Glad you guys are here. We're live. For those of you that maybe just joined us in the podcast, we're going to be doing this occasionally.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we talked about it before, the whole thing of, is it happening to you or are you happening to it?
Mm.
And I heard that the other day and I thought, God, that's kind of the essence of life is, are you living slightly outside your comfort zone so that you are happening to it being life or it being your marketplace, or is it all these external things, are they happening to you? And I think part of this skill is, how do we identify where we are being happened to versus where we are happening? So,
yes.
Okay. So here's my third.
Okay.
That was just a throwaway.
I like it. No, it's a good one. Keep it.
Third is, we've got to recognize that our customers might be in a very different place in Q2 and 3 than they were in Q1. So the fact that all this stuff is happening, and when this happens, everybody kind of gets a little fidgety and their voice goes up a little bit and we have to recognize that our messaging has to be congruent with what the circumstances of our client is. So if your client is in a business where, let's just say, again, I hate to bring up the term, it's like bringing up the term COVID tariffs, but let's say your clients are in the business where they're going to be products coming in or tariff, and they're going to have to raise their prices to compete. If you have a way to help them either lower price or compete better at a higher price, then you should be talking about that. Versus the old message, which might have had something to do with efficiency and effectiveness and all that stuff. So
yes,
and I think that's always, recessions are times where your business and my business flourish and prosper because people are, it always happens that way. So
yes,
people during these, and again, I'm kind of reluctant to talk about the doom and gloom because I don't know. This thing could be corrected middle of this week. If all these countries come and negotiate and all this, stock market be back up, but this goes for whatever's going to happen, because I think a cousin of this is AI. And as we look at digital technology in the marketplace, that's all changing. And you may not be using AI to explore customers, but your customers may be using AI to explore vendors. And so if we're going to compete in the same way we did pre-AI, in post-AI or during AI, I think we're kidding ourselves. So I would suggest that I don't want us to learn to be AI prompters, but you kind of have to have a sense of what it can do. If you don't, you have no idea what the customer might be using it for.
That's so good.
And we have a common friend, Vince Freeman, who has really gone all in on studying AI and all the platforms and all the things it can do. And when you start to look at it, it's frightening in a good way. It's frightening also in maybe a bad way. But I would say that one of your skills that you could learn in the next few months is the AI impact skill. Understand how it can help you, how it can serve you, how it can serve your customers better. And we just have to acknowledge that it's here. And not just for writing emails. I think that's a simple way to think about it, but it's much more than that.
It's the ICE. It's the AI impact skill, also known as the ICE. See what I did there?
No, I did.
AIIS, ICE. Everyone will get it. They'll get
Impact
it.
skill.
AI.
Okay.
AI impact.
Everyone will get it, but you
They'll
Bill.
get it. They'll get it.
That's okay.
It's a thing. All right. I found my last one. This one, here's who's going to love this one. CFOs are going to love this one. CEOs are going to love this one. Sales leaders, mostly. Salespeople, y'all listen. You may not like this one, but you got to do this.
Oh, I got to hear it now. Now that
Ready?
you told me. Come on.
In this, any sort of softness in a market, I'm going to go levels here. One thing to do, really good customers who are awesome and you're integrating their business, you need to strongly consider raising price with them. And then those who are new to you, do not lower price. The skill of holding price becomes a thing because everyone wants to start to bottom things. Well, we're cutting costs, we're cutting this.
Love it.
Everyone wants to cut. You have no idea how much extra volume you have to do and how much extra volume you have to do to maintain profitability. Now I'm talking to the CFO person.
Yep.
They know, they're like, yes. And you can lose clients. And hold price and still maintain margins, or hold clients and raise price even better and lose more than you think you
From a macro standpoint.
From the business. This is really having a business acumen about understanding how dramatically price impacts profitability and cash flow in a company.
Yeah.
And salespeople are really quick, any level of softness to just cave. You've got to be able, that's a skill too, to facilitate that conversation, to talk through it, to understand the other person's point of view. That's a skill to develop. Yeah. Raising and holding price in a soft economy. So
it seems like that's a great one, because it seems like we have two choices. If you are impacted by rising costs of goods or tariffs or whatever, you're impacted by that because companies overseas, there's extra prices and extra fees put on. Mm-hmm. You have two choices. You can either eat it, you can eat those and not pass it on to your customer and thereby reduce margins considerably, or you can work on the skills of commanding a premium in your market so that when you go out and you are a 10% premium, you have no trouble commanding that price because of your skill set and your marketing and your branding and your positioning. It's not just sales skills to me, it's more than that. But now it's easy just to eat it. It's harder to work on the skills. So you have to decide, are you going to take the easy route and sacrifice margin and the company goes out of business, or is less than because we can't make any money anymore. We're just kind of hanging on for years and years and years. Or you're going to say, oh no, I need to figure out how can I command a premium through marketing, branding, positioning, and selling. Yeah. If you can do that, you don't have any worries.
No. And you can, it's not binary. It's not like you either raise price, you don't, it's a skill of doing math, of saying, okay, we may not raise price, let's hold it, but let's extend terms, or let's extend contract term, or whatever, or shrink term. If the person's like, oh, you don't want to be caught, in this big 3-year contract, can we get out of it? Like, yeah, but your rate's going to go up. But if just talk, it's a skill to develop, and salespeople really, they start to shake. And it goes back to how we started, which is they start to hear all this stuff. They worry about things they can't control. They get weak on the inside, head, heart, and soul gets weak. And then they just come and say, hey, Bill's going to leave us if we don't, drop 10%. Like, that's not what Bill said. That's not what Bill said, but we don't have the skill to facilitate a conversation. That's the lesson here.
Yeah. And I think we also don't have the belief sometimes that when you talk about raising price, I think a lot of times we don't have the belief that we're worth the extra price. We become so comfortable with $10,000 as our thing, as our price on something, that if you say we need to go to 12, we have all these years of comfort zone around 10. And we, well, it's worth 10, but is it worth 12? Well, if it's worth 10 because it generates an extra $1 million for the client, it's not worth 12.
I know.
It's not. Yeah.
It's amazing.
Hey, we've got a challenge here in that we have gone quite a ways with this. I'm wondering if we should keep going and then break the episodes up into.
Let's do it. I can keep.
We got a lot of people on. Greg Walters is on. He says selling is changing because buyers are changing. Yeah, says he's learned AI over the last 28 months. He said AI isn't taught, it's learned. I love that. So holding price, good one. So hopefully those 4 or 5 things have given you a start. And we decided kind of on the fly here, as you heard, that we're going to do another like series 2 of this, where we're going to go deeper on some of these. And I think we each have some more skills. So if you're listening, then this is the end of this podcast. We'll come back here next week and we'll resume this. But I'm glad you were here. I'm glad the live people were here. And we'd love to hear from you on LinkedIn. AdvancedSellingPodcast.com/LinkedIn to go to the group and make some comments. We'd love to hear from you.
Love it. See you next time.